What a year! This is the time of year where I usually do my top 10 best of the year list for movies. I consider not doing one this year because the goal is to see 104 new release movies in the theater. I wound up only seeing 60 new release movies, some in the theater, some at home, and it felt a little bit disappointing. But there are 10 movies I enjoyed a lot this year that I wanted to single out because, it would be a disservice to all of you, my few loyal fans, if I didn't do my top 10 of the year list. And I've been doing these since 2014, so this is the 7th year I've been doing a top 10 best of the year list. And again, there were 10 movies I really liked, so I want to single those out in case they're not on your radar for whatever reason. So without further ado, I'll just say this is my subjective list. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys liked from this year in the comments down below, and let's get started with it. Coming in at number 10 is a movie that when I first saw the trailer, I was like, that's probably not going to be for me, but The Devil All the Time wound up being really interesting. I thought that the cast was excellent. Bill Skarsgård was amazing. Tom Holland was really good. Robert Pattinson's accent was okay, not the best I'd ever heard, but generally speaking, this was a really gritty and enjoyably dark, dense movie. I thought all the narratives came together really splendidly, and it was cool. Again, it's not exactly a feel-good movie. There's a lot of feel-good movies on this list, but to make me feel so provoked and so distraught, but effectively in a year that was already so provocative and distressing, I really connected with this, and I thought it was an expertly well done movie. So hats off to the writer, director, all of the actors. They were fantastic in this thing. Moving on to number 9, we've got Bad Education, a movie that I almost missed because I know it's like an HBO movie, so it kind of qualifies for Emmys, not Oscars. Is it a movie? Is it a TV movie? Who cares? It's great. Corey Finley's direction was phenomenal. Hugh Jackman picked the great follow-up to Wolverine. He was excellent in this movie. The movie felt very two-faced in that you thought you knew one thing all along, and then turned out, oh no, this entire thing was a sham. Much like all of the characters in it were kind of two-faced throughout. Really solid direction. This was a really aesthetically pleasing movie, and again, a very interesting look at a prominent suburb of Long Island that otherwise could have been, gone unchecked. And I thought that it was a really, really neat thing to have seen. So I'm glad I didn't miss it. Following that up at number 8, we have actually the most recent movie that I saw, the final movie I watched in 2020, which is Happiest Season. Just a charming ride all throughout. Kristen Stewart's excellent. Mackenzie Davis is excellent. This movie made me feel just, so cheerful. The holidays are difficult for everybody, but I loved seeing how both of them came to a, splendid resolution by the end of the movie. And, love is great. I'm a big fan of love. Happiest Season was awesome. Moving onward to number 7, we have The Invisible Man. This is one of those movies that when I first saw it, I was like, oh, people are saying it's going to, get in for Oscars. I don't know about that. Now I hope it does qualify for Oscars because I thought it was awesome and doesn't seem like there's much else on the playing field this year. Elizabeth Moss was excellent. Leigh Whannell's direction was great. The script was really tight. I loved that. All of the sequences in this movie just really unsettled me. But it was also fun. A bunch of the thrills were really entertaining to watch. So Invisible Man was awesome, and I'm really glad that I got to see it in the theater back in February, and that was great because I missed the theater so much. Going next on to number 6, we have Palm Springs, a movie that hit during the summer when it was much needed. I needed a refreshing, fun movie for the summer, and Palm Springs was that. I'm a big fan of time loop movies. Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti were delightful together. I love seeing the fun spins on the wedding movie tropes. It was just one of those movies that felt like it could have been generic since time loop movies are kind of making a comeback. Time loop movie, but it's action. Time loop movie, but it's horror. Time loop movie, but it's this and that. Palm Springs made it feel new. It made it feel refreshed, and I really liked that. This was a strange movie that I could definitely get behind. It's my type of indie. This is a movie I feel could have made my list even in a normal year, so I'm glad that I got a chance to see it this year, and I'm glad that it's so high up on my list because of how strange a year this has been for movies. On to number 5, we've got another feel-good comedy, The King of Staten Island. I loved seeing Scott's journey through this movie. Pete Davidson played that character amazingly well. Judd Apatow was an incredible director everybody knows that at this point, but I was so glad that he made a return to features after 5 years of kind of diverging into TV and stand-up and all that good stuff. We missed you in the feature space, Judd, so I'm glad that he has returned, and that The King of Staten Island was such a, sweet, heartfelt return. Some people said it was too long. I could have watched another hour of this movie. I really dug it that much. And Pete Davidson is a movie star, and I'm so excited to see him in The Suicide Squad next year. So excited to see him just do whatever he wants to do next. Going on to number 4, we return to the dark, unsettling content, and that is The Assistant, another movie that I think this premiered in 2019 at a festival, and then it got wide released in January. I didn't wind up seeing it until like August or September of this year because it just like it wasn't on my radar. And when I finally checked it out, I was like, oh, that was unsettling. That was really, really chilling. It's about this woman who discovers that her boss is kind of a Harvey Weinstein type figure, and that she needs to kind of come to terms with what she's comfortable doing in her industry. And it was really interesting seeing how such a monotonous workplace could actually be so terrifying. It was excellent direction from Kitty Green. Julia Garner's performance was great too. I feel like I'm just singling out the directors and the actors here, but like the entire mood, like the set decoration made this place just feel so dreary all the time. So props to everybody that went into making the atmosphere of this thing, because The Assistant absolutely was a movie that was all about atmosphere, and the atmosphere was so effective and so memorable. Moving on to number 3, we've got, I think this is the first time a documentary has ever been on one of my top 10 lists ever, which is exciting. I'm glad for that because I loved Miss Americana. I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. I thought Miss Americana was a great look at how both Taylor Swift views herself in the general pop culture ecosystem and how she perceives herself as a woman in America today. Linking those two ideas was awesome. The editing in this thing was so exciting. I felt like I was in Taylor's perspective the entire time. It was really great cinematography. The entire documentary, I was just enthralled. And again, I'm not a big documentary fan. It's really difficult for me to get into documentaries, so I prefer, just watching narrative movies like The Assistant or King of Staten Island, etc. But Miss Americana felt as narrative as any other fictional movie I'd seen this year. So I loved Folklore, I loved Evermore, but I think Miss Americana might just be Taylor Swift's best product of 2020. On to number 2, we have a movie that I feel like most people missed, and it's Clouds. This movie was directed by Justin Baldoni. He did 5 Feet Apart last year, a movie that I thought was pretty good, got kind of mixed reviews, but I thought was better than most people did. Clouds proves that Justin Baldoni is a masterful director. This guy is going to be an A-list director. He's already an amazing actor. He's going to be one of the best directors to look out for these next few years. It's basically this guy Zach, who is a musician, but he has terminal cancer, so he's gonna die, and he just wants to make the most of the time that he's left to write music with his friend, just celebrate life. And the thing that I think was most poignant from this movie is the whole theme is you don't need to realize you're dying to start living. And I think that a lot of people on the other side of this pandemic will realize that there's so much more life to live that they didn't get a chance to beforehand, and that people will embrace that going forward. Zach's story was inspirational. I felt crushed at points. I was literally weeping during this movie, but I was laughing at other points, and I felt so uplifted. By the end of this movie, you will have gone through an entire emotional roller coaster. And yeah, maybe there's a few cliche, cheesy parts that are typical of all of the sick kid movies, or that are typical of all of the coming of age movies. I don't care. It was effective for me. I thought this movie was absolutely phenomenal. And if you're asking me, I think this might just be better than Fault in Our Stars, better than 5 Feet Apart. It might just be the best sick kid subgenre movie ever made. Finishing off the list of the movie you guys have all been waiting for, I'm just going to cut right to the chase. Where do I even begin with Onward? This is the first animated movie to top one of my top 10 lists in all the years I've been doing this. It's deservedly so. Onward's a movie that was just about adventure. It was about brotherhood. It was about family. It was about, staying hopeful and believing that you can save the day. It's one of those movies that I was lucky enough to see in theaters when it first came out. And from the very opening narration, I was like, this is going to be a special movie. This is going to be a fun ride. And it was a fun ride. But like Clouds and like The Assistant and like Miss Americana, it also just hit me emotionally. I've realized more this year than I have any other year that, like, movies aren't about the aesthetic. They're not about how much money you spend to make something look amazing. Well, a movie looking amazing is awesome, but if it doesn't have an emotional impact on you, then it's not effective as a movie. Onward had the biggest emotional impact on me this year. I felt so just speechless watching it. I was so into the ride of these brothers. Some people said that this isn't Pixar's best work. I disagree. I think this is one of the very best films they've ever made, and I do not say that lightly because I love Toy Story 4 last year proved they can make great sequels, and Onward this year proved that Pixar can still make great original movies. In a year that was so full of like despair and sorrow and death, Onward brought a little bit more magic to my life. So guys, those are my top 10 favorite movies of 2020. I hope you have enjoyed this list. Be sure to comment your 10 favorite movies in the comment section down below. Sorry, this is a little bit more thrown together than years past. Hoping next year to get back to seeing about 100 movies a year, not 60. But with that said, yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's always a thrill to bring you these lists at the end of the year. And again, I'm hoping for a better 2021. I think we all are. So until next time, it's a pleasure to stay connected with you guys, and thank you so much for watching.